Good morning and welcome to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. I'm Jim Rosenfield alongside Dave Briggs having his coffee here at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. There's Allison Camerata at our global home quarters this morning. Good morning to you.
Hi, guys. Great to see you. I'm glad to see that you made it through the nor'easter that hit our area yesterday. I drove through part of it, challenging at times.
Dave, you drove through parts of
Yeah.
it.
Inside joke,
Unintentionally.
folks. I drove right through the nor'easter yesterday, but today it's pretty calm out there at the moment. We're thankful for that.
Glad you are safe and
All
sound.
right. So there was this nor'easter, everyone, that wreaked havoc on the East Coast yesterday, particularly beach communities, and particularly New Jersey. And it prompted New Jersey and New York to declare some states of emergency. You can see some video of the flooding on your screen right now. So we'll have more on the damage in a few minutes.
Plus, day 14 of the government shutdown, and no sign at the White House Republicans nor Democrats are anywhere close to an agreement. Coming up, we'll speak with the financial planner about what happens if there is no deal, and the Affordable Care Act subsidies, the money that helps millions pay for health insurance, disappears.
But first, we're talking about emotional scenes overseas in Israel as the last living hostages held by Hamas returned home after more than 2 years in captivity. Take a listen. This video released by the Israeli army showing those tearful reunions between the hostages and their families. So many long, long hugs and celebrations, people just dancing up and down. 20 hostages in total were freed under that U.S. broker deal to end the war in Gaza. Crowds in Tel Aviv's hostage square erupted into cheers as the Red Cross confirmed all 20 hostages were safely back on Israeli soil. Now, as part of this ceasefire, Israel released 250 Palestinian detainees. They arrived in buses and they were greeted by thousands who had gathered in the West Bank city of Ramallah to greet them as well. Allison?
Wow. Just look at those videos. I mean, what joyous, long-awaited
2 years.
moments. I know.
I mean, you probably
it must feel like a
never
dream.
thought you'd see them again.
Must
if
not
you're a
feel
loved one.
real at first, that you're actually
Yeah.
holding your loved one in your arms.
Remarkable. Just think about what that's like. Probably losing hope at some point, and let alone the people that were in captivity by Hamas in tunnels. Oh, just such a joyous moment. So much credit to our president.
Oh my gosh. So no one yet knows if this ceasefire will hold. Obviously, it's been decades of fits and starts there, but President Trump did take a victory lap, victory tour, I should say, in the Middle East to celebrate what he called the end of war in Gaza. So let's bring in our foreign correspondent, Amy Kellogg. Amy, let's just start with the release of those hostages. I know you've been watching those videos and those moments along with us. Were all 20 in relatively stable condition? I mean, they looked healthy, but what do we know the status of people? I know some had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, Allison, and I think I'm with you in feeling so emotional. I've watched those videos about 20 times now, and each time I just tear up. Also seeing the videos of the Palestinian prisoners with their children being hoisted up to the windows of the buses where they were transported. In terms of their health, Allison, I think, yes, they looked incredibly strong given what they've been through. But other hostages who've already been released have talked about an incredibly long journey back. It is a healing process, and these hostages will be undergoing medical checks and psychological checks, and there will be stages, no doubt, of post-traumatic stress and joy and possibly survivor's guilt. I don't know, but they will be under very close supervision. The bodies of 4 deceased hostages were returned yesterday to Israeli families. And that goes against really what Hamas has promised to do, which is to return all of the bodies, 28 bodies. We understand a few bodies will be released today, a few more bodies. we know that Hamas is saying it doesn't know where they are all buried. And that really could become a sticking point in this ceasefire because it's been said that if Hamas does not make good on its promise to return those bodies, then they won't possibly make good on other aspects of the deal, such as disarming. Um, all four of the bodies returned yesterday were identified. Two names have been released. Two are pending approval of the families to be released. We know Israeli authorities are saying one of the deceased died because he wasn't treated for his wounds while in captivity,
Mm.
and the other, a Nepalese agricultural worker, in fact, not even an Israeli, died because he was killed in captivity.
Mm.
Meanwhile, let's just take a listen to President Trump yesterday.
But the momentous breakthrough that we're here to celebrate tonight is more than the end of the war in Gaza. It's with God's help, it'll be the new beginning for an entire beautiful Middle East. From this moment forward, we can build a region that's strong and stable and prosperous and united in rejecting the path of terror once and for all. We want to get rid of the terror and get on to other things. There are many other things in life that are so good.
So, Amy, that was in
So,
Egypt,
just
right?
the beginning. Yes, that was in Egypt. Part of his victory tour yesterday, President Trump addressed the Israeli Knesset, the parliament, yesterday, and then went on to Sharm el Sheikh, Egypt, to sign what has been labeled the Trump Declaration on Enduring Peace and Prosperity.
What was the takeaway of his remarks at the Knesset, at the Israeli parliament? First U.S. president to speak to the Knesset since George W. Bush back in 2008. And he actually urged the Israeli president to pardon Netanyahu during a portion of that speech.
Yes, that was off script, Jim, and he certainly did. He said, Netanyahu is facing fraud and corruption charges, and President Trump bigged him up very much in his remarks yesterday, encouraging Israel's president to pardon him, saying, "What are a few cigars and some champagne?" That certainly will have gone down well among Netanyahu's supporters, but it will also be criticized widely by people who don't think that President Trump should be meddling in Israeli domestic affairs. But the gist of his remarks were really about how this is a new dawn. And he certainly swerved into hyperbole and glossed over a lot of the potential hiccups in this deal.
Yeah.
But the tone was one of a positive path forward.
Taking a step back because we were not here yesterday, just how much credit does President Trump deserve for his unique situation, the people he employed, and the leverage he put on Netanyahu here?
Yes, everyone has been very skeptical and critical.
Hmm.
We
Yeah, we
lost Amy
lost
there.
Amy's
That's
audio,
unfortunate.
unfortunately.
I really wanted to get her analysis there because, look, to every single world leader we've heard come out and said, look, all credit deserves. Oh, there you go. Amy is back with us. Continue.
No, I was just saying people said that Steve Witkoff's just a real estate guy and Jared Kushner is a family guy, and they're not really seasoned diplomats. They are private individuals, but they have been incredibly steadfast in seeing this through. They've been in the rooms. Trump has been credited for putting pressure on Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to stop the war, which he apparently did not want to stop, and the fact that Trump was willing to engage Hamas was a very big deal. In the past, lots of parties have not wanted to engage Hamas, but the reality is they are a party. They are one of the two parties to this war, and they needed to be engaged. Of course, there were circumstances that did not have were not due to Trump's genius that helped make this the time for a deal to be done. But uh, credit to Trump for having pushed so hard on so many buttons to make this happen. And I think all people now who are
Mhm.
interested in this and watching this just hope he'll see it through because, as we've been discussing, there's a very long and treacherous path ahead.
And Trump's bombing of the Iran nuclear facilities, one of those buttons.
Yeah.
You got it. You may not want to if you're a critic of President Trump, but I hope you can give him incredible credit for what he did.
And there are reports in Axios first reporting that Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff actually met face to face with Hamas leadership to try to make this deal happen.
Remarkable.
So a lot
It's
going
remarkable.
on behind the scenes. I'm sure we'll learn more about how that all played out. And coming up in a few minutes, we'll speak with a Middle East commentator about what may be next. This
Thank you, guys. Yeah, guys, sorry. I think that the guys are frozen. I'll pick it up. Okay, so we want to chime in now with our question of the day.
Do you believe?
Go ahead, guys.
Do you believe the Israel-Gaza ceasefire will become a permanent peace deal? Scan that code on the far. We want to hear from you. I don't know how I'd answer that question, Jim. That is a very difficult question until we hear disarmament.
Still early in the process, but
know.
We can have hope, right?
I have hope that President Trump will drop the hammer, on Hamas if they don't disarm.
Cooperate.
Yeah, look,
Yeah.
I think I hope you have faith in what President Trump did there. All right, meanwhile, a powerful nor'easter pounding the East Coast, bringing coastal flooding, heavy rain, and strong winds from the Carolinas to New Jersey, New York, and New England. Here's some video now. Look at that. Floodwaters in a coastal community in Ocean City, New Jersey, not far from us. Both New York and New Jersey declared states of emergency, bracing for more rain, flooding, and heavy winds. The Jersey Shore hit hardest by this nor'easter. With more on that and the latest forecast, we're joined by meteorologist Nick Pittman. Nick, good morning.
All right, good morning, guys. That was one of the biggest storms that we've had in recent memory. Some of the areas along the Barnegat Bay, to be specific, had the highest flooding since Sandy over 13 years ago. So it was a significant deal. You see that borderline two major flooding just east of Stafford Township, Toms River, down to the Barnegat Bay. And there were some back bay areas in like Absecon and Galloway and Smithville in Atlanta County that also had 12 to 18 inches of water in the streets. Moderate flooding down through Ocean City, the Wildwoods, Cape May, and then down along the Bay Shore communities of the Delaware River. Here's some of the footage that we had come into us over the past couple days. This is from Greg Graham in Wildwood, a solid 15 inches of water in the streets. And you know how high those fire hydrants are, right? So if you were kind of wading through the water there, you had to be careful. And this is what the entire shoreline looked like. This young man had the right idea in Avalon. This is Max kind of paddling his way to school yesterday morning, right? I think as a 33-year-old kid, I would be doing that myself. Now, the good news is the stacking of the back bays is done and gone. We had one more tide cycle overnight that brought some more minor tidal flooding, but the winds have since shifted out of the north, and that's going to be allowing the water in the back bays to evacuate, to go back out into the ocean. So we are not looking at any more major concerns. It is still on the breezy side with gusts to around 25 miles an hour. We might peak that up to about 30 miles an hour. Now, where do we go forward from here? Well, we had a bunch of rainfall right along the immediate coast, back towards Philly, maybe 1/4 of an inch, but I think the forecast definitely verified to the eastern parts of our viewing area in New Jersey, at least 1 to 3 inches was the call. Couple more scattered showers are possible today. Otherwise, it's just a cloudy day. It's a calmer day. It's a day in transition. Good news is the back end of the cloud cover is going to be over southeast Pennsylvania by tonight. We clear the skies out, and then going forward into your Wednesday, sunshine comes back in full effect. The one thing that we will have to watch in this area, southeast Pennsylvania, New Jersey, since the humidity is so low, since the dew points come down into the 30s, frost and freeze concerns are on the docket. So we go from a pretty major nor'easter to frost and freeze just in time for your Halloween season. Guys, back to you in the studio.
All right, Nick Pittman, thank you very much for that range of weather possibilities. All right, it's 3 weeks to Election Day, and there's been a double-digit change in poll results in one of the most closely watched races around the country, and that's for New York City's next mayor. So a week after the current mayor, Eric Adams, dropped out of the running, former New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo climbed 10 points in his effort to catch up to Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani. Andrew Cuomo is running this time as an independent.
There's the latest numbers from a Quinnipiac University poll with Cuomo at 33%, Mamdani 46%, Curtis Sliwa at 15%. To help us break down this race, we're joined now by political commentator Andrew Kurtzman. Andrew, thanks for joining us this morning. So, big jump, but is it enough? A 10-point jump in such a short period of time. Does that mean what? New Yorkers are ready to forgive Cuomo for those accusations of sex harassment against him and also his COVID era policies at nursing homes?
I don't think we're there yet. I mean, Cuomo had a very good week. And when Eric Adams dropped out, as you said, Cuomo surged 10 points. But Mamdani has solidified his support. And his support has been just rock solid since he won the primary several months ago. I mean, the race has been about Zoran Mamdani from the moment he won that primary. He has just been a bolt out of the blue and a political phenomenon. Cuomo, it kind of represents kind of the Democratic old guard. He's got a lot of political baggage, as you mentioned. It's been a slog for him. And at this point, he's behind by double digits. It's still a very uphill battle for Cuomo.
Yeah, so basically he just absorbed all of Eric Adams' voters. I mean, there
Yes.
was a question about whether or not they would split, but it seems as though Cuomo has absorbed them. Now, that said, don't polls always narrow right towards election day? I mean, isn't this finally the moment when people really sort of key in and start paying attention?
Sure, absolutely. And both candidates have millions of dollars in the banks. They're just ready to spring on television advertising and internet advertising. Mamdani has more money than Cuomo. Cuomo started this campaign with just a truckload of money, but lost the primary, and it's been very hard for him to raise money up until recently. Mamdani has just been kind of gliding towards City Hall. Um, you know, Campaigns are built for this moment, right? They're built for the moment when they unleash advertising, when the electorate, pays close attention. The problem for Cuomo is that the electorate has, for several months, been fixed on Mamdani, and it's very hard to break that stranglehold.
Over the weekend, Mamdani ran a race in New York to raise funds for a United Nations agency that Israel claims has ties to Hamas. He also continues to say Israel has committed genocide. Will that story have an impact here?
Right. Well, I mean, one of the fascinating questions is how the peace deal in the Mideast will affect the mayor's race, right? Like, politically speaking, if you're Zoran Mamdani, you do not spend a great deal of time attacking Israel. That's in a city with a huge Jewish population. But Mamdani feels very, very strongly about the Palestinian cause, probably to his political detriment. Now, with that said, a growing number of young Jewish New Yorkers have gravitated towards an anti-Israel posture themselves, which has benefited Mamdani. It's mostly kind of older Jewish voters who are stuck with Cuomo, and Cuomo does have the majority of Jewish support.
Andrew, we've
Yeah, we're we're having some audio and video issues out of the diner. So, Andrew, did you see that moment where it seemed as though there was some détente between President Trump and Andrew Cuomo, that they're not using heated rhetoric towards each other? President Trump might have warmed to the Cuomo candidacy. What were your thoughts?
let's take a break.
Okay. Well, it seems that that Trump actually cares about what's going on in the New York City mayor's race, and he doesn't like Mamdani, calls him a communist. Doesn't mean that it's going to shift the race very much, but it's kind of interesting that Cuomo, who's now aiming a little more towards conservative voters, is suddenly softening his rhetoric towards Trump. It's politics.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much, Andrew, for explaining that. Whenever something doesn't make sense, you can just go, it's politics. Andrew
Well,
Kurtzman, thank you very much for the
sure,
analysis. Sorry for the
sure.
technical issues. Great to talk to you. All right. We're going to go to take a break and we'll be right back with Connecting America.
This guest worries me a lot. Should we?
All right. So
Sure.
welcome back to Connecting America, everyone. Guys, have you seen what's been happening in Portland, where I would say the protesters of what's going on with the ICE raids are taking an interesting and more colorful tact?
They definitely are.
Yeah, it has been very colorful. Protesters taking this unconventional way to show their resistance to the president's policies. Dozens of people gathered outside a local ICE facility with some dressed as inflatable frogs. As you can see, the demonstrators turned the protest into a playful but pointed message about peaceful resistance. And on Sunday, hundreds of protesters took part in a naked bike ride around the city. Thankfully, we will black out the
That's the only shot we could show of
that's
that one.
about all we can show you there. President Trump has threatened to send National Guard troops into Portland, saying they're needed to protect federal property. So far, a federal judge has temporarily blocked any guard deployment. The frogs were based on one frog, inflatable frog, who had been seen all over. And so now they're popping up. They're multiplying, apparently.
Apparently so. Also, I read that those costumes also protect them somewhat from any gas, that might be deployed by authorities.
Well, at one situation, they they actually
Opened it up
sprayed in that
to get
Oh.
the
around
air
that
nozzle. Yes,
protection.
which was a
Ooh.
little disturbing actually to see.
I mean, I think that optically it's an interesting ploy because it is this stark contrast between how frightening the ice guard can look. Some, some of those officials and guards are masked. You can't see their face. They're in dark or they're in camouflage. And then these, brightly colored, ha ha ha, children's cartoons. And I think that it's making an interesting point. I mean, I don't know if it's effective, but I think that that's just different than what we've seen in some other cities. All right, let's go now to Tel Aviv. We want to speak with Major Shraga Stern. He's an IDF reservist who spent 100 days fighting Hamas. Uh, I hope we can get the guest. Shraga, are you with us? Oh, good. Thank you so
Yes,
much
I'm right
for
here.
being here. Thank you. It's wonderful to have you here. So, as I understand it, you went to fight against Hamas on October 8th, a day after the terror attacks 2 years ago. And so, tell us from your perspective what it was like to watch these reunions of the hostages being reunited with their families.
Yes, it was an unbelievable experience. It was just so joyful. I was standing at the hostage square in Tel Aviv, where thousands and tens of thousands of Israelis were gathering together with Israeli flags and a lot of American flags. And we were just all in awe and joy. Um, the highlight for me was when they announced that there are no live hostages anymore by Hamas, and I just got all teary. As you said, I've been through some stuff in the military. I've been a reservist for nearly 20 years, fought in Lebanon and Gaza. I've had men and best friends die in my hands, and I didn't get so emotional as I did yesterday.
Shraga, that's really an interesting perspective because we don't talk that often about the IDF soldiers and all that they've sacrificed and all they've seen. I think that the impression is that you guys are so strong and so tough that we don't often hear about it. What do you think the toll has been like for these 2 years on the soldiers that you served with?
Yeah, it's been a very high toll on not only the soldiers. We're talking about an army that's a people army of reservists that all have other professions and other jobs. And none of us
Sure
wished
could
for
hear
this
it.
war. This war was forced on us, and we
Did you
all
get
left our
this?
lives, our
Good
jobs, our
job.
families, our kids, and went out to fight. So the toll is on the soldiers themselves that were never motivated. None of us were never motivated by
Go for you.
hate of the Palestinian
Okay.
people,
Glad you
but
found.
of love to life, to our people, to protect with those hostages in mind all the time. So I can't even describe how joyful it was to see them reuniting, especially on the front lines where we saw the price that it had on getting them back.
And
So
Shraga,
very
I mean,
grateful.
that is such an important point that you're making about that, how it's an army of primarily reservists. On that day that you decided to leave Chicago to go to Israel and fight, just tell us a little bit about what happened that day and your thought process.
Yeah, it was. It didn't take much. It was October 7th, Saturday morning, and I woke up and opened my phone and I saw all the messages of everything going on. And I understood that there's only one place I need to be there in the moment. I got into an Uber, and within 30 minutes from waking up, I was on my way to O'Hare Airport, from there to New York, and made my way to Israel, landing on the 8th, on Sunday the 8th. As you said, I'm a major. I have 500 soldiers. One of my men waited for me at the airport while the rest of them were already deployed to the town of Sderot. And that evening, I was already in a fire exchange in Sderot, driving down and seeing the devastation of the terrible, terrible attack that we had in the south of Israel. And on Sunday, I witnessed it. It was still going on. Cars were still burnt on the sides of the roads, bodies were hanging out of them, and terrorists were running around when the IDF was trying to gain control back. So it's been a long 2 years. We've been through a lot as a nation, and we're very, very grateful and happy that this war is over. But it is also a little bittersweet. Our minds and hearts are still with those families that don't have their loved ones yet, and we're really hoping that all the bodies return back and to their families and deserve the dignity and the honor of a proper burial, and for those families to have a closure.
Absolutely. And so, Shraga, obviously, the challenge now is how to preserve this peace deal. Do you feel more hopeful this time than in I mean, this has obviously been going on for decades, than in previous peace deals?
On a personal level, I would say that I got a good lesson of believing and keeping hopeful, because along these 2 years, again and again, I felt like we're never going to see some of these hostages again. And yesterday was a real lesson of staying hopeful and optimistic. I think it feels in Israel, with a lot of people that I talk to, that this time is different. I think Israel, since its inception in 48, and Israel always reached out for peace to its neighbors. It feels like many times in different wars, the US took the role of peacemaker. And when you make peace, you have to make peace through strength and whatnot. It feels now, especially with the strong message that came out of Sharm el-Sheikh last night, it feels like the US foreign policy is about peace building now, not only peacemaking, but aligning the interests in the region, the Abraham Accords, bringing more people on board and making the incentive of the region working together. And I think in Israel, many, many people are very hopeful. And we're waiting to see that. We're waiting to see a prosperous region with neighbors that choose life as we do, and choose the incentives of the Western world in being part of building a great region.
Well, that would be wonderful. Shraga Stern, thank you so much for sharing your very personal experience and perspective with us. It's great to have it. Thank you. All right, up next, we're going to talk about the government shutdown. A financial planner is going to be with us to talk about what if Congress doesn't reach a deal. So, what can you do if the government shutdown forces your insurance and your healthcare premiums to go up? Connecting America. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Connecting America, everyone. Great to have you here. Okay, let's talk about the government shutdown because we are now in day 14 of the government shutdown. So, as you know, if Congress cannot agree on extending the subsidies that allow people to pay for their healthcare premiums through the Affordable Care Act, those premiums could double, sometimes people say even triple. So let's talk about what you would do about that. Here to break it down for us is the certified financial planner, Bobbi Rebell. She's also the consumer finance expert at cardrates.com. Okay, Bobbi, thank you very much for being here. We don't have our guest. All right, we are obviously having some technical issues here. I'm sure it is because of the nor'easter that has rolled through the Northeast and particularly the diner where Dave and Jim are. So we'll take a very quick break and we'll hope that the technology gods smile on us and Connecting America. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Connecting America, everyone. Great to have you here. Let's talk about the government shutdown. It is now in day 14. And of course, the sticking point for Democrats that are dug in about healthcare costs and the health insurance subsidies. So here to break it down for us is certified financial planner, Bobbi Rebell. She's also, hi, Bobbi. Sorry, we had some technical
Hi.
difficulties there. Great to have you here. You are also the consumer finance expert at cardrates.com. Okay, can you give us just a very quick thumbnail, a quick understanding of why these healthcare subsidies are important?
They're important because people's health insurance premiums, if you're in the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, we call it the healthcare marketplace. If you're in that, your health insurance premiums could go up as much as 114%, according to some estimates. So a lot of Americans are going to be hit with very expensive premiums for their healthcare, and that has people worried. The sign-up time, open enrollment starts November 1st. So that's what the Democrats are focusing on. What the Republicans are saying is that the enhanced subsidies, those are extra subsidies that happened during the pandemic and have since been extended. They don't run out until the end of 2025. So that's why there's sort of this debate about when we should be talking about it. Ironically, though, a lot of Republican constituents, a lot of those red states have people that might be hit a little bit harder. So it's an interesting, delicate dance that's going on right now.
Yes, I mean it's interesting. People like Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, for instance, are talking about it in a way that is not in keeping with the Republican talking points because she knows her constituents are going to be demanding answers. So I know you said they could go up 114%. What are the dollar signs there? I mean, what are we talking about? From 200 to $400? Like what how much are people generally paying?
That sounds great to a lot of people. These numbers are really big, Allison. So, for example, according to KFF, that's the Kaiser Family Foundation, average out of pocket annual premium payments for subsidized enrollees are expected to jump 800 from 888. I'm reading off paper to make sure I get this correctly. 888 to $1,904. That is a lot of money for people to swallow. So, one thing I want people to start thinking about is how they're going to start paying for all of this because those numbers are big.
They're huge. Okay, let's talk about that. So, what tips do you have for people who are going to see an increase like that?
First of all, eyes wide open. Go in and start looking and be ready. Be realistic about your healthcare needs. Read and understand all of your plan information. Understand what it covers, what it doesn't, and then start gathering information to make the right choices. That might mean generic drugs instead of brand drugs. It might also mean doing some research ahead of time about what medical procedures you might have to have in the next year or going forward and what they cost and using online tools. One of my favorite, carecredit.com/FFP. That stands for Fair Financing Principles. That'll give you, you put in your zip code and the medical procedure. It'll give you what it should cost so that number one, you're kind of mentally prepared. You can start financially preparing. And also maybe you can have a conversation with your doctor, with the medical team that you work with and figure out if they're maybe charging more than in your region. And maybe there's some negotiability there.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a great idea to start talking to your doctor and just relying on their expertise as well as compassion about how you're going to plan your next year. But in terms of those dollars, Bobby,
Yeah.
that's a lot. How are people supposed to find that extra $800 out of thin air? How are they going to pay for their monthly medical premiums?
It's gonna, first of all, let's just say it, it's gonna be really hard, and that's why we're having so much friction in Washington. Now, if you are in an employer-sponsored plan, if you have a job with a flexible spending account, that is your first line of defense because that is pre-tax dollars, so that money is gonna go further. The same thing with the health savings account. If you do that, you might have a high deductible, healthcare plan. Those are often a great deal. Companies often put extra money into your account. You can use it and it never goes away. So that can, of course, if you don't use it, be used for things like retirement. That's a whole other segment, Allison. But then you want to look at financing, which is really hard. But what I want people to avoid is going directly to the credit card that you already have in your wallet because if you don't pay that bill on time in full, you are paying interest right away. So, what you want to do is buy yourself some time. You can do that with things like deferred interest, and you want to understand what you're doing first. So, I'm going to send people to carecredit.com/. Fair Financing Principles, FFP, to get more information about how deferred interest works. You can get zero interest for a defined period of time. Again, buying yourself time to spread those payments out without paying interest. You can also get on plans that have lower interest rates. Again, easing the pain. But the reality is, Allison, someone has to pay for our healthcare in this country. It's really expensive. This is a problem that's not going to be solved overnight.
Bobby, those are such great tips, things that people surely I hadn't thought of. Where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, you can subscribe to my Substack newsletter. That's bobbyrebel.substack.com. And again, you can find out more information about Care Credit at carecredit.com/FFP.
Bobby, thank you. I really appreciate you sharing all of that with everybody because millions of people are worried and thinking about it today. So thanks so much. Okay, let's talk about if you are planning a trip to Disney World, you're going to have to get out your wallet. Um,
That's you,
guys,
Dave.
I don't know if you're back with me.
We are.
Yeah,
We've just
okay,
been
good.
sipping on coffee, hoping to be
No,
able
I
to
know
hear
it's
you.
relaxing, very relaxing for you guys. So Disney World is expensive on a good day, as you know, and
Oh, yeah.
now prices for tickets are going up at Disney World and Disneyland for the annual passes. Basically, get out your wallets.
I'm afraid to ask what that regular ticket price
Oh
is.
man, it is. The last time I went was a few years ago, and it blew my mind. So the good news is there's a workaround for some Disney visitors, at least for another year. Here with the inside info on how to pay less at the happiest place on earth is USA Today's senior consumer travel reporter Eve Chen. Nice to have you with us this morning. Everybody is curious about this story. Tell us the bad news first. How much are prices going up?
So prices are increasing about, $5 on average at Walt Disney World for some of their tickets. And then at Disneyland, some of their tier prices are going up about 3%. So not so bad. But if you plan, you can get the same prices as you did before the increase.
How do you do that? Clue us in.
So sure, right on the ticketing calendars for both Walt Disney World and Disneyland, you can see all of the prices for all of the dates going forward, and you just have to look for the starting prices. Those are remaining the same at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland. Disneyland's starting price has stayed the same since 2019 at $104. So that is going to be about the same. At Disney World, the starting price at all four of their theme parks is remaining the same. The top end prices are also remaining the same through next October. However, those middle prices are the ones that are increasing by about $5.
Wait a minute.
What's the
What?
top tier?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you
explain that.
go.
What do you get for the middle and the top?
So the pricing at both Walt Disney World and Disneyland depends on date and price. So the starting prices are going to be those lower demand dates when you have some flexibility. Think about weekdays when kids are in school. The higher price dates are going to be the most popular dates. Think about vacation times and also the holidays. Typically, the most expensive time of year to visit is right around the Christmas week. And so those are the dates you're going to see the highest prices. But if you look at the calendar and you have a little bit of flexibility, you really can still get the same prices as you did before the price increase last week.
I'm reading that a
Well,
park hopper ticket, which is the one that I know most families really want to get because they can move around between 2 or 3 parks in a day, is now more than $200 a day. Is that right?
Yeah, because the park hopper option that you add on costs more than the starting price. So the starting price that I'm talking about is for a one day,
Okay.
one park ticket. And that's actually what I use when I travel to Disney World or Disneyland with my family. The flexibility you have with the park hopper, you do pay extra for that. And that does raise the price above $200.
So all these different
wow.
parks you can hop to. Does this affect Epcot, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios as well?
Yes. So again, all of the starting prices are remaining the same at all four of those theme parks, but those middle areas are what's increasing through October 2026. And then after October 2026, when we're looking at next year's holiday season, those prices are going to go up even a little bit more. So now it's going to go beyond the current max right around that holiday Christmas period when everyone's trying to go to the parks.
Why is Disney doing this? Have they explained why they need to raise prices on families?
Disney World has said, and Disneyland, Disney in general has said that they are committed to making magical experiences available to everyone, but they're also committed to industry leading wages and enhancing and refreshing guest experiences. And so, just speaking on a personal note, not on behalf of Disney, seeing healthcare prices increase, grocery prices increase this time of year, I'm not surprised to see Disney increase prices. But if families plan ahead and have some flexibility, they can really plan around it.
So, I think maybe you guys can't hear anymore. So,
Yeah.
if a family wants to get the most affordable deal, what date should they go? When do they start planning?
Again, if you look at kind of weekdays, traditionally around like February or maybe September, even early November, times when it's not right around school breaks, you can find some great deals then. If you go to the websites of either Disney World or Disneyland, they have a promotions page where they'll list all their latest promotions and their best ticketing offers and hotel offers, and you can find the lowest prices there that are being offered any time of year.
All right, Eve Chen, thank you very much. Thanks for all the tips. I think it'll be really helpful to all of our viewers. Okay, so guys, can you hear me? Or I'm going to go with no. All right, so let's take a fitness check right now. I think that would be really helpful because Connecting America's fitness correspondent Jenna Wolf has some tips for us. Let's see.
Greetings from my relatively small kitchen. That's okay. I happen not to have 60 straight minutes today to do a workout. It is a particularly busy day for me. I don't even have 45. Frankly, I probably don't have 30. What I do have is a desire for some coffee and some mean hunger pain, so I'd like to make some breakfast. Now, while I'm doing all those things, I could easily pick up my phone and scroll aimlessly. Or what I could do is fill those 15 minutes with 15 minutes that I most likely won't find later on in the day. Okay? Follow me. Here we go. But Jenna, you don't have any shoes on. That's okay. But Jenna, you don't have any space. That's okay. But Jenna, you don't have any equipment. But Jenna. I got you. It's all good. 15 minutes, very little space while your breakfast is being made. Let's go. First up, coffee. Coffee. Very important. While coffee is being made, I got 5 minutes to work with. So I'm going to give you 5 exercises. You're going to do 1, minute 2, minute 3, minute 4. All right, here we go. Minute 1, right? Start your clock. Here we go. I want arm swings. You're like that? Yes, I'm like this. Get some blood flowing in those arms. Move them around a little bit. You've been in one position all night. You're going to do this for a full minute. Minute number 2, we're squatting or sitting down in a chair. That's it. I'm just squatting nice and easy for a full minute. Wake everything up. Take your time on this first round for a full minute. Minute number 3, coffee's starting to brew. I got push-ups. I'm going to go up against the counter. Feel free to go on the ground or on the counter. And if this is really hard for you, you can go up against a wall and push off. Remember, it's early in the morning. You're just waking up. Number 4, let's work some abs. I'm going to do some claps under my knee. I do this for a full minute, right? I'm crunching down. Knee up, crunch in. Clap, clap, that's minute 4. And number 5, again, back on the countertop, I'm going to kick a leg up, alternating, kick a leg up. 5 minutes, guess what? Coffee is done. Now say we're going to make some breakfast, right? So I'm going to take a piece of toast, sourdough, throw it in here. Let me start it. I started it. We're going to do that whole thing again. The 5 minutes, right? Because look what it says. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Minute 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now I want an egg, right? Gotta have a little protein. Woo! Can't believe that worked. Now I go and do the same thing again. 5 minutes. I got coffee, I got toast, I got an egg, I got a 15-minute workout in, and if that's all I do today, I'm completely fine with it. Sometimes I actually get more done on the days that I don't have a lot of time than when I have all day to myself. You can't find time? Make it. That's the key. I just made 15 minutes right here and I'm well on my way.
All right, thanks to Jennifer for that. So, of course, we need to give you our Taylor Swift update. And of course, there is one today. Taylor Swift just smashed another record by selling 4 million copies in 1 week of her latest album, that is The Life of a Showgirl. She broke Adele's decade-old record in terms of that. And just when you thought you'd gotten every last bit of content out of Taylor Swift, no, she has more. She's dropping a new docuseries and concert film on Disney. The streaming channel released the trailer for a 6-part series. It's called The Eras Tour: The End of an Era. The first 2 episodes will release on December 12th. At the same time, Apple TV will also release The Eras Tour: The Final Show, a full concert film from her tour finale in Vancouver. So you'll have a couple of choices of Taylor Swift streaming content there. This will be the first time the Tortured Poets Department segments, which were added late in the tour, will be seen on the big screen. Now, while she previously released Taylor Swift: The Eras Tour as a concert movie, so You weren't crazy if you saw that in 2023. That did happen. It did not give as much of the behind the scenes story as this will. And of course, that's a very big deal because a lot we now know was happening behind the scenes in her love life and with Travis Kelce and with her producing another album. So tune in for all of that. Okay, if you want to connect with us, please do. You can download the best of Connecting America each day wherever you get your podcasts. You just type in Connecting America into the search bar and it will come right up. You can also find us all over social media. I'm at Allison Camerata on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Okay, we're going to be right back at the top of the hour. We're going to fix our technical problems in the diner and talk to some people there. We'll be right back.
Mission is not only to connect America, but to keep you and your family safe. And just when you thought you heard it all, there are scammers out there who have the know-all to steal your entire house. It's called title fraud. It's unimaginable the devastation that it can cause. And we're joined by Natalie Dominguez. She is the title theft education specialist at Home Title Lock. Natalie, thanks for being with us. First, explain for our viewers how this crime occurs.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me with you guys. So it's very simple, right? If I'm a criminal, I can walk into a county office if you're a homeowner in America, and I can file a one-page document and basically take your ownership away from you and put it into either my name or a fake person's name. And then legally on record, the criminal owns your home. And then they can take that ownership and they can go take loans out against your home or even sell the property behind your back. It's terrifying. This is terrifying.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes these crimes hit the most vulnerable. Who are the main targets of this house stealing?
If you are a homeowner or a property owner in general, you are a target. Unfortunately, the most vulnerable tend to be our elderly. It's generally people that are not watchful and that can be easily taken advantage of. Older people that are sitting in homes with full equity that have been there for a while in gentrified areas. So I would say vacant property and the elderly are the two top targets of this crime.
What are some of the other worst cases that you've seen of this type of fraud?
It honestly depends. We've seen some stories actually too in the last 2 years that we know of where people have had their properties actually bulldozed because in both separate cases, the property was sold to a real estate development company while they were not living in the home. Loss wise, that would be the worst. I think time wise, there was a woman in California who spent over 3 years fighting to get her home back. It was a very sad story. She was a disabled woman living in California.
Yeah, it's unimaginable, and
Mhm.
obviously you want to help people protect themselves. Tell us what Home Title Lock's protection does and why it's different.
Any company that tells you, we prevent these things from happening, unfortunately, you can't stop it from happening at the county level. You can't. But what we do is we monitor your property 24/7. We urgently alert you as soon as something comes in the database. We have proprietary access to the largest database of title records in the US. The best part of our $1 million triple lock protection is the third lock, which is our restoration. And what this means is, unlike any other company, we're the only company that does this. If you are a victim of fraud, and you try to go to the county office and say, hey, this wasn't me, they can't do anything about it. It is legally on record. They can't just tear it up. They can't say, oh, this is fraud. Cool. We're going to toss it. You now have to go hire an attorney and go get it litigated before a judge. And this can take months to years, depending on the situation and how quickly you find it. So, our $1 million triple lock protection restoration means that you don't have to worry about any of that. If you are a victim of fraud, you let us know, hey, this was not me. We will immediately jump in and start building a case for you. We will take it to court, no out of pocket cost for you. We take care of all of the legal stuff and we bring you through all the way to restoration. And we fight for you where there are no safeguards for homeowners in the legal process and on the government side. We want to give you guys a chance to look at that today. You're going to go to hometitlelock.com and use the promo code CA. You are going to get a free title history report. This is going to give you everything that's currently filed on your property so you can make sure that nothing has been erroneously filed, misfiled, or filed fraudulently against your property. And then you're also going to get 14 days of our $1 million triple lock protection to get you protected. And we want to make sure that you guys have that.
All right, Natalie Dominguez, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
The views expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of USA Today or its affiliates.
Good morning. Welcome back to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. I'm Jim Rosenfield alongside Dave Briggs here at the Sunrise Diner, Roselle Park, New Jersey. Allison Camerata joining us once again from her global home quarters. Were you feeling a little lonely, Allison, in the last hour?
A little bit, yes. Because of, I think, the aftermath of the nor'easter, you guys were having some technical difficulties at the diner. And luckily, I had prepared an interpretive dance for just that moment. So that's basically what I've been doing while you guys
She's
have been.
multi-talented, Jim.
Oh, my gosh.
She is a woman of many talents.
We would like to see
I
tape
am.
of that.
Okay, well, I'm sure it exists somewhere. So, but let's talk about that nor'easter because it affected so many of us along the East Coast, and the aftermath is still being felt. So, it did a number, particularly on the beaches of New Jersey and the houses in low-lying areas there. So, this is the borough of Tuckerton, that's north of Atlantic City. Wind speeds topped out at about 50 miles per hour. That is just below hurricane strength. But man, it made driving difficult. So you can see how the ocean water roared into this residential neighborhood. It really swamped the cars there. There's going to be a lot of flooding in these basements and some houses. So, of course, it'll be a long recovery for the folks here who are going to have to dry out. Then let's go to Seaside Park. So many people know this community. It's a real fun, amusement type area for kids and teenagers that have been going there forever. This is what it looked like on the beach there. And guys, apparently it took a huge amount of sand from Seaside Park. Erosion is always a problem along beaches, but one person witness there reported that there was no beach left after this weekend. So beach replenishment is going to have to come, well, either from the state or the Army Corps of Engineer. So, they truck in sand from other beaches. We have team coverage of this. We have one of our favorite guests, Jay Vitale. He's in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, I believe. Jay's company, AquaServe, provides lifeguards. Later, we're going to talk to Alex Silva. Also, Jay, thanks for being here. How's the beach looking where you are?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. So similar to the images you just showed, because we're still experiencing the tail end of this storm, the water level's still really high. So there's always initially, after storms like this, especially when we just finished such a massive beach replenishment project, there's always a ton of concern just visually at what looks to be a severe lack of beach. And there certainly was a significant amount of erosion. But it's going to take the next couple of days for us to see what happens when the water level really comes down to see what the actual beach face looks like post-storm. The image you're showing now is from yesterday, just around high tide. You can see there's really nothing left at the moment with how high that water level is. There's a bit of dune erosion going on. And as the camera pans there on the left, where you can see those houses off on the west side of the dune compared to the waves, you get a real sense for exactly how big and powerful the rush of water coming in is. So we've definitely lost beach, and it's definitely going to be a concern. But it'll be a couple days till we get a really good finger on the pulse of specifically what that equates to.
Hoping no water rescues you had to do this time of year, Jay?
No, thankfully, because we're out of season now and the air temp has dropped down into the 60s, Mother Nature is our best deterrent. So it's not a nice beach day. The water temp's starting to drop down. So nothing that I've heard of yet from up and down the Barrier Island, but I'll be really surprised if we hear of anything problematic that went on during the worst of this. So I think we're in good standing.
So you didn't see any wannabe surfers or anything out there?
No, and that's a great point because everyone usually equates, all right, waves are going to be big. We have a storm coming in. There's going to be surfers littering the water up, down, left, right, and center. The problem is when you have a storm like a hurricane or a nor'easter, in the peak of it, there's such a disorganization in the ocean. It's nearly impossible to plot a good spot to be to try and catch a rideable wave. Leading out of the storm as things are calming down is when it gets really fun, especially during a nor'easter. Traditionally, following a heavy storm, we'll have a really nice wind switch. The wind will turn offshore, come out of the west, start shaping those waves up. And if I can get my old butt out of bed and nothing's hurting too bad, I will very likely be out there tomorrow morning.
That's some good. That's a good tip, Jay. So we all remember Superstorm Sandy, which was now more than a decade ago, and the devastation that that brought to New Jersey as well as other places on the East Coast. So if that was a 10, how does this storm compare to that?
I don't want to insult our nor'easters. So I was in Point Pleasant through the duration of Sandy, and I would put this somewhere around a 3. But hurricanes or tropical storms and nor'easters are really different in kind of an interesting way. So when you have a hurricane, it's generating force from warm water coming up from the tropics. Its path is usually fairly predictable to forecast. And we know generally living in these areas, and from a lifeguarding perspective, because all lifeguards are junior meteorologists, we know that we're going to see some downgrade as it gets closer. There's a lot of travel. By the time they get to us, they're usually not as severe as initially predicted. Nor'easters are a whole different animal. And the reason they happen this time of year is the air north of us is cooling off, but we still have that tropical air coming in from the south. So when those two forces hit, it just creates a really high level of turbulence. Everyone thinks about storms 2-dimensionally. It's traveling from here to here. There's a 3-dimensional element to it. When hot air and cold air mix, there's a massive shift in height, and it causes these very quick, very erratic, very powerful storms. So nor'easters are definitely not to be trifled with, but Superstorm Sandy, 100-year storm, I'm hoping we don't see that again for another 90.
We hope you are right. Jay, thanks so much. Excellent work as always. Love having Jay live on the shore. All right, let's bring in
Jay
AccuWeather
is so good.
meteor.
Can I just want to stop for 1 second. Jay called himself a junior meteorologist. I think if with hard work he can get there, because he is really good at understanding these weather patterns. And also, I would just listen to Jay. I would listen to Jay say water all day long.
Oh yeah, it's that Jersey Shore / Philly water.
Yes.
No, he is a
water.
gem. He is an absolute gem. Lucky to have him. All right, let's bring in AccuWeather meteorologist Alex Silva. Alex, another gem as well. We are always happy to have you. What do we see, my friend?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Luckily, the storm is starting to move away from the coast right now. It's sitting somewhere here off the North Carolina coastline, and over the next day or so, it's going to continue to pull away from the United States. We've really seen those winds really come down here in the last 12 hours or so. Still a little bit of rain out on Cape Cod here for the next couple of hours, but I think that will be ending as we go throughout the afternoon. But one thing we will have to be getting through for the rest of the day is I think we're going to have to get through one more big high tide cycle. The winds are still coming out of the northeast in a lot of these areas here. The winds are still coming out of the northeast in a lot of these areas here, and I think we have one more high tide cycle to get through during the early afternoon hours, around 1 to 3 p.m. A lot of these areas, Delmarva Peninsula, Jersey Shore, Long Island, one more high tide cycle that I think we could see some problems. And then as the storm pushes away this afternoon and this evening, I think the tide should generally come down from that point on. So the good news is things are going to be winding down, but there's one more tide cycle to get through. Now, if we take a look at the rest of the tropical Atlantic, what do we have to look forward to here over the next week or so? Remember, hurricane season goes through the end of November, so we still have a month and a half to go during the hurricane season. This is going to be the next area that we're going to have to watch. We've really seen nothing in the Caribbean so far this year, but we're tracking a tropical wave that could be development in this area during the middle portions of the month. And if there's low amounts of wind shear, we could potentially see some fairly rapid intensification. So we're a long way out, nothing to worry about quite yet, but we're just highlighting this area for now as an area to watch as we go throughout the rest of October.
Alex De Silva, thanks for joining us from AccuWeather. Another story we are watching here, as is the rest of the world. Those just emotional scenes coming out of Israel as the last living hostages held by Hamas returned home after more than 2 years in captivity. Long hugs, tears, screams of joy. Israeli army showing these tearful reunions between the hostages and their families. 20 of them were freed yesterday under that U.S. brokered deal to end this war in Gaza. Crowds in Tel Aviv's Hostage Square erupted into cheers as well as the Red Cross confirmed all 20 hostages are now safely back on Israeli soil after more than 2 years. Now, as part of this ceasefire deal, Israel also released 250 Palestinian detainees. There are the buses that brought them to the West Bank city of Ramallah, where crowds greeted them as well. Allison.
Gosh, I mean, as Amy Kellogg was saying, we could just watch that all day long about
No
the
question.
just jubilation of being reunited. And Dave, as you were saying, it probably feels surreal. I'm sure they've dreamt of those moments, and I'm sure that they're pinching themselves to figure out if this is real this time, but it is. Look at, I mean, my gosh, people, fathers being reunited with kids, brothers being reunited with sisters, boyfriends and girlfriends. It's
Yeah,
just
and there were those twins,
incredible.
Allison, right? The twins
Yeah.
who were reunited, twin young men
Yes.
who had been, held captive, and then one was freed, and then the other just yesterday. Can't
Truly
imagine.
just
Yeah.
remarkable, and you can't give enough credit to President Trump and the job he did here, and really, in fact, bullying Benjamin Netanyahu, who some say did not want to end this war, but it was a unique negotiating tactic. Whether whom you want to give credit to doesn't really matter. It was a different process. It was different people. It wasn't diplomats that were in here. It was Jared Kushner, in fact, really applying the screws to people he knows, contacts he has,
Meeting directly with Hamas leadership, by the way,
I mean,
according to reports.
it was truly astounding the way the president went about this, and you have to give credit where credit is due here, Allison.
Yeah, and one of the things about this unconventional deal is that because Jared Kushner is not an official member of the administration, we may never know exactly what happened in those backroom deals.
Nope.
There's no disclosure that has to happen. There's no transparency that has to happen. And so it would be fascinating to know exactly what was said and how this happened, but I don't know that we'll get that, as well as the questions that remain about this ceasefire and exactly what was promised. Some of the details are scant, but President Trump took this victory tour in the Middle East to celebrate what he called the end of the war in Gaza. On Monday, he addressed the Israeli parliament. That was a huge moment. And then he met with the Palestinian Authority, President Mahmoud Abbas, for the first time since 2017. And then there was this incredible moment where he was joined by several world leaders in Egypt. You see them all on stage together, and he signed what he called a ceasefire deal, though here again, very scant on details. Journalists tried to find out what was in it, but it wasn't released what was in it. So we're not exactly sure what this deal with Egypt or Turkey or Qatar is, but questions, of course, remain on who will govern, who will rebuild Gaza after all of the devastation there.
And of course, will Hamas disarm? Look, that is probably the biggest question here. Those who are familiar with this deal say everything is very vague right now, and there are really only 2 of the 20-point plan that has been instituted. We are a long way from the finish. Nonetheless, a remarkable day on Monday.
Yeah, it was. And we know significantly that Israel and Hamas was not there in Egypt and was not part of that whole document signing. And as you mentioned, Allison, unclear what exactly is in that document, other than Trump calling it a very important document with rules and regulations and lots of other things in there, according to
and
President
why
Trump.
Netanyahu wasn't there is not entirely clear. He said it was because of the Jewish holiday. Everyone close to that deal said that is not a legitimate reason for him denying the opportunity to be there, that he chose not to be there. Now Steve Witkoff is another name we did not mention there. Steve Witkoff has been instrumental in the Trump negotiations.
Middle
And again,
East
a
envoy,
complete outsider who has come in and dealt with situations around the world. And next is Russia, because Volodymyr Zelensky is at the White House on Friday. Can Steve Witkoff solve that is another question. But I would love to see Steve Witkoff in the middle of the government shutdown. Look, this guy clearly has a way with people.
Oh, to broker a deal there.
Yes, sit down with Democrats and Republicans, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of Americans starting to say, can we use this diplomacy to broker peace within the 2 parties here?
And should President Trump be doing more here at home to deal with that? All right, we want you to chime in now on our question of the day, if you'd like. Do you believe the Israel-Gaza ceasefire will become a permanent peace deal? You can vote yes or no. Scan that QR code there on the side of your screen and weigh in. Right now,
pessimistic viewers.
Yeah,
this
100%. Oh,
morning.
the numbers are changing, Dave. Okay, they
There
just
you go.
changed. But still a third. Well, they're changing as we speak. Thanks for weighing
That's
in,
the
everybody.
idea.
Okay.
Look at that.
Now it's 50-50.
Moving the
Guys,
needle.
are you
What is
guys, are
happening?
you changing
That's
this
me just with a
dial right
knob,
now?
Allison. I can do it with
That's
my
what it
iPhone. I
seems
just kind of
like.
tweak it.
That's what
Real
it
time.
seems like right
Real
now.
time
That's
numbers.
amazing. Okay, well, I'm glad that people are getting slightly more optimistic. All right. Meanwhile, after the break, a very important story. We're going to speak with Dr. Payal Kohli, one of our favorites, as you know, here, because she brings us so much information about this new form of cancer that's actually rising faster than any other. So, what you need to know when we come right back.
Welcome
All
back
right,
to
welcome
Connecting
back.
America. I'm just making sure I don't have any food on my face.
I always know when you're chewing that I should take the intro. That's my
should.
cue for
Yep.
when I should take it. So
Appreciate that.
enjoy your breakfast. I know it's been a long morning already there in the diner, but we do need to talk about this very important story because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we want to alert everyone to a concerning development. So the rate of something called lobular breast cancer, also known as invasive lobular carcinoma, has increased dramatically during a recent 10-year period. This is according to the American Cancer Society. That's a steeper rise than all other kinds of breast cancer combined. So we want to learn about what this is and what it means for all of us. Let's bring in Dr. Payal Kohli, adjunct professor at both Johns Hopkins University and Duke University. Doctor, thanks so much for being here. So, what is invasive lobular carcinoma?
Good morning, and such an important topic. I don't think we can talk about it enough because we really are seeing a shift with more cancers in young people. So, the breast tissue has two types of tissues. One is the lobules, and the other is the duct. The lobules make the milk, and the ducts carry the milk to the nipple. So, we're commonly used to hearing about invasive ductal carcinoma, which is the most common type of breast cancer, but the lobules are actually the second most common type of cancer. So, the invasive lobular cancer is more common than we think, and that rate has really been increasing. And the tricky thing about this type of cancer is that it doesn't grow in a lump. So instead of forming a mass that you can actually feel, sometimes women just feel fullness in the breast. They just feel a little bit of tenderness. Sometimes they can feel just changes in the skin or the texture of the breast because it forms more in a straight line rather than a lump.
So we understand the incidence of this cancer, doctor, increased just under 3% per year between 2012 and 2021. Did the doctors who did this study understand what's going on or why this is happening?
Well, we think we have some clues. So this type of cancer is very sensitive to hormones because, again, remember, it's the milk-producing glands in the breast that are affected. And we've seen a sharp rate of increase in hormones in women. And what we saw was that after hormone replacement therapy got a bad reputation, especially in postmenopausal women, the rates of these cancer went down. But now we're seeing especially younger premenopausal women using birth control pills, usually a combination of estrogen and progesterone, which can feed this type of cancer. Now, that combined with the fact that we're getting a little better at detecting cancer, but also combined with the fact that more women are obese and more women drink alcohol than ever before, these are all factors that drive estrogen production because fat drives estrogen. Alcohol affects the way that our body makes estrogen as well. So that's why we think the rates of these cancers may be going up, especially in the younger women.
How serious is it? What's the survival rate and the treatment as well?
So the tricky thing about this cancer is if you catch it early, it's actually better than the ductal carcinoma, that more common type of breast cancer. But the problem is that it has a high rate of late recurrence because it's often picked up much later. So again, because you don't feel that mass, and even on mammogram, it doesn't always show up. So the detection rate on mammogram, because it doesn't cause a discrete mass, is only 68% as compared to 80 or 90% for those invasive ductal carcinomas. So we really sometimes need additional imaging technologies like ultrasounds or MRIs, especially in the 50% of women that have dense breasts. So for 50% of us, the mammogram is looking for white on white, which is very hard to pick up. So you really do need a second imaging modality. So most women really need to sit down and think about their breast cancer risk and talk to their doctor if they've had a mammogram about what their breast density is, because that's how you know what your breast density is once you've had a mammogram. It doesn't have to do with how skinny you are, how heavy you are, how big your breasts are. None of that affects your breast density.
Mhm. So, is there a particular group that is most at risk for this lobular breast cancer?
You know, we do see some epidemiological trends, and it generally tends to be white women that are the highest risk. Obviously, postmenopausal women, because age is one of the biggest risk factors. But as we discussed, it's even going up in premenopausal women. But if you're a postmenopausal woman who is obese or has a higher body mass index or BMI, this is really someone that has a target sign on them. So I would encourage every woman to take time this month to think about her personal breast cancer risk. Go online, there's a calculator, it's a breast cancer risk calculator. You type in your numbers, it tells you your lifetime risk of getting breast cancer. And that can really help guide sort of screening and management. But you know, breast cancer awareness is so important because it is one of those cancers that we're seeing an increase in. And we do need to be thoughtful about how we use hormones as women rather than just starting our young women on birth control pills without thinking about their lifetime impact.
Hmm. Dr.
Dr. Pa.
Polipoli, thank you very much. We really appreciate always your expertise and alerting us to something like this. We'll see you soon.
I think Dave maybe has a cold coming on. He was just sneezing, so maybe the doctor should stand by.
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Are you doing
Good,
okay?
good.
All right, coming up after the break, we're going to tell you about the latest government services to go in the dark during the shutdown, and they're popular. We're going to talk about which side of the aisle may be getting the most blame when we come right back.
Everybody, and welcome back. The government shutdown now at 14 days, and that's why we have an extra guest here on set. 14 days, closed all 21 of the Smithsonian Institution museums, as well as the National Zoo. There are still more airline flight delays as well. House Speaker Mike Johnson saying Monday the country is, quote, barreling toward one of the longest shutdowns in American history. We are joined by Republican analyst Paul Knitra to examine where we are in the shutdown. Good morning, sir. Good to see you.
Morning, guys.
14 days. Do you see any optimism? How long do you think this thing could last?
I have to be honest. Last time that I was with you guys, I thought this was going to be over in a week or two, and it certainly seems like the Democrats have a strong will to keep this going. And Speaker Johnson referenced it earlier, right? I mean, it could be the longest shutdown in government history. Obviously, I have my thoughts on why and who and everything along those lines.
So who do you think is controlling the narrative here in terms of who's looking good or bad in terms of responsibility for the shutdown?
Look, again, trying to be as objective as humanly possible
We appreciate
here.
that.
I think Republicans are the beneficiary of this right now. You look at blue states like New Jersey and Virginia, where the races are tightening. There's a poll that showed a dead heat in the Virginia governor's race. There's one that showed a dead heat in the New Jersey governor's race. If the optics of this were really hurting the Republican Party, you would think that you would see those numbers going in an opposite direction, which is why I think that Republicans don't have an appetite to negotiate or to change the
Just
the
real
status
quick,
quo.
you saw a dead heat in Virginia?
Yeah. There's
that
two,
race isn't close.
There's two recent polls in Virginia.
I'll give you New Jersey. This is a tight race.
I'll give
Virginia is not. That is over.
I'll give you both of them right now, and then the studio can go back and double check me in 1 second,
Okay,
because
all right.
Virginia was showing up 15 points just a month or two ago. There's one poll that showed that it was a 2.3 margin of error within the margin of error of the poll, and another showed a dead heat.
That poll, because everyone I've talked to,
Trafalgar was the single most accurate.
We'll agree to disagree
pollster.
on that one. Allison, go ahead.
Paul, I think it's interesting what you're saying about the politics of this shutdown, okay, and the optics and who will get blamed.
Yeah.
But there's another question about the substance of it. Why are Republicans, since you represent their perspective, opposed to negotiating about healthcare subsidies, since most people, Americans, who rely on the healthcare subsidies are in red states? Why dig in your heels about that? Wouldn't it be a win-win for everybody if they were to negotiate something good for Americans?
All Republicans are saying is we want a clean CR. We want to keep the Biden budget going forward for a little bit more while we can negotiate this properly. And Democrats have shot themselves in the foot. They have had a million different opportunities to separate out the checks on illegal immigrants and for healthy workers, and they haven't done that. Had they actually done that, they would be in a much better situation right now.
I know, but I understand, Paul. But you understand that they are focused on just the subsidies portion. That's what they're dug in about, and that's something that would help Republicans. So can't we just all get together and agree that they can negotiate that right now? Why is that? Why would that be bad?
Again, it goes back to who's holding all the cards. I don't understand why Republicans would negotiate when Democrats haven't outwardly come out and said, okay, we're willing to concede on these points. You may be hearing behind the scenes that they're just focused on the subsidies right now, but they haven't conceded the other points.
What do you make of an interesting voice? Some are calling amazingly a rhino from the far right. Marjorie Taylor Greene has been outspoken, saying Republicans are the reason the government is shut down. One, they could reopen it because of the nuclear option. But most of all, she is saying healthcare premiums are skyrocketing across the country, and we can fix this. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And I'm not arguing against subsidies, okay? The reality of the situation is the subsidy conversation needs to take place. The timelines and who's forcing this, I mean, that's really the crux of the issue right here. Democrats initially were looking to jam all this in and then only have it extend until the end of October. They were going to need to renegotiate it anyway. And even right now in the current conversations, this would only, if this was a continuing CR, this would only get us to the end of November. The conversations need to take place on a global scale. So I don't understand why they aren't just comfortable with the Biden budget and aren't just passing that anyway.
Well, the Democrats are saying these subsidies expire and starting next month, just in a couple of weeks, people are getting their premium notices for next year, and those premiums are going to go up unless there's a deal. Some are saying, though, they could make this retroactive, come up with a deal later. Yeah.
To the point earlier, I do think that it's not breaking through all the noise. Again, I'll go to another poll that you guys can reference afterwards, but 63% blame Democrats, 67% blame Republicans, and there's crossover because they're blaming a little bit of each. They're showing you the poll right now on that screen, aren't they?
Trafalgar poll.
I knew it.
Hey, look, I'll bet you a steak dinner that is not a 10-point race.
I'll bet you a steak dinner that if
I've paid a
Republicans,
lot of attention to that state, and it ain't.
if Republicans win in Virginia and New Jersey, it's game over for the midterm elections. Can we agree on that?
New Jersey's tight. I think it might be tighter than the polls suggest. I won't be surprised at all if Republicans win here, quite frankly.
So
Allison?
Paul, what's the breakthrough? What in the past, historically, what's led people back to the table? Is it just Americans getting angry enough?
Right, and we'll continue down
Mm-hmm.
that road. Only 12% of Republicans believe that this is actually a huge issue for them right now, and 39% of Democrats. So we're not even over 50% in terms of each party thinking that the shutdown is a big deal. And when you take out the military, okay, the majority of the 300 and plus thousand federal workers donate to the left. They're all Democrat leaning. I just think that Republicans are holding all the cards here, and that's the breakthrough is going to have to come from somebody giving in.
I think President Trump was right when prior to his election, he went on Fox and Friends and said that any government shutdown is always the blame of the chief executive.
Well, if we're going
to, he said no matter what, it's always the president's job to lead and to get to both parties.
He did say that.
If we're going to play the quote game, can we talk about how Chuck Schumer always said you should always give a continuing resolution?
I agree. No, hey, look, I'm the first one to say I think they're holding no cards here, the Democrats. They've always said you should not use a shutdown to argue your legislative priorities.
Fair enough.
Agree with that. I'm just saying the tactics, and it's interesting to see how the president negotiates. He can broker Middle East peace easier than he can a government shutdown because he's applied his leverage. Why isn't he personally involved here?
What's his motivation? What's his
to get the government reopened?
But what's his motivation in terms of the end result for the American people?
He's the leader of the free world, and if he can't solve this problem, what can he solve?
I'm pretty sure that the president believes that Republicans are holding all the cards here, and eventually that they're going to get the policy points that they think are best for the American people, and the financial situation that's best for the American people. Which is why I think they're going to. I mean, how do we think this is going to turn out? Somebody's going to have to budge, right? Who do we think is going to budge first?
I think Democrats will budge.
Well, that's my point. And the president knows that. I think the president knows that.
Allison, go ahead.
And Paul, well, I mean, also the president, I think, has been clear that he, never let a good crisis go to waste, as I believe Rahm Emanuel said. And I think he's been clear that will use this to shed some more federal government jobs that he thinks are perhaps bloated. So I think that there's a feeling of, there's layoffs happening. He has said they might become permanent. So do you think that that's at play here, Paul?
I definitely do. I think we're, again, on the same page. I think the president views this as an opportunity to cut more government waste as he sees it, the bureaucracy, paring it down a little bit more. So we're all on the same page. And I think the fact that we all we see the same things and the same motivations shows that we're really in the same place with where this is going to go. I think it literally comes down to, how obstinate are the Democrats going to be? Because do they actually think that they're going to win at some point?
Who's going to?
We're out of time, but a yes or no. Shouldn't Congress be the first group that goes unpaid in the government shutdown?
That's a fair point. We can all agree on that. I think that's fair.
See,
I agree. I agree.
Totally. We agree on a lot.
Yep.
No steak dinners over that.
There should be some motivation for them,
the
right?
fact that the military goes unpaid
Yes.
before Congress makes my head explode. Good to see you, man. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah. Paul Knitra, thanks for being here.
Allison.
All right, you too, Paul. And we'll find out what you're going to be for Halloween later, because just when you thought Halloween was all about candy and costumes, well, try being the parent of a tween, meaning an adolescent. This year, the biggest scare is not the price of candy. It's drama over group costumes. I'm sure you guys have already heard about this. A Parents.com article is striking a nerve with moms and dads who say there is pressure. It's turning on to a full-on stress test, because basically, I've already heard about this from parents of tweens. Their kids want to go in groups, so you have to come up with a group costume
Oof.
that appeals to all 10 of the kids. And that's very hard.
I mean, didn't we always
So,
go in groups?
yes, but you just went as your own individual
Yeah.
costume.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Let
Unless you were me and you went as a member of KISS. And then you did have to coordinate with the other band members of KISS of who was
Well,
going to be false.
are we going to coordinate? Are we dressing up and are we going to coordinate?
absolutely.
Okay, I have
That's
the
a great
costume.
idea. What is
Okay.
it? What is it?
I'll just tease it, folks. We will have a coordinated costume, but you guys are going to have to wear what I provide to you.
Uh-oh.
Yes or no?
Uh-oh.
Yes or no?
Um,
Allison?
yes. I mean,
Yes.
as you know, I've been in
It was on
very
tape.
peculiar costumes because of Dave Briggs. But yes, sure, I'll do it
Okay.
again. Why not?
What are we in
Yeah. Okay.
for?
So let's bring in Jordan Reed, bestselling author and founding editor of the Substack Ramshackle Glam, where she writes about parenting and more. Okay, Jordan, tell us the problem here with tweens and Halloween.
You guys are cracking me up with the group costumes. It's the bane of my existence too. Miserable. So when it comes to tweens, it is less about the costumes, of course, and more about what they represent, right? So tweens are in this moment where the QT costumes are to little kid, and they're not quite ready, or we're not quite ready for them to wear the more grown-up costumes that they're seeing online. And so Halloween becomes this like flashpoint for identity questions that they're already wrestling with, like, who am I? How do I fit in? How do I want people to perceive me? And all of a sudden it's like less I want to look like Moana and more I want to look like I belong.
Why is this so stressful, though? Then, okay, get costumes that coordinate.
Oh, well, it feels like no matter what you do as a parent, you're doing it wrong. If you say no to the potentially, age inappropriate outfit, you're overprotective. If you say yes, you're that parent. And then, as you guys were discussing, you add on that social pressure of friend groups, group costumes, parties, and all of a sudden you're not just negotiating a costume, you're negotiating autonomy and safety and belonging, and it's all at once, and it's a lot. It's not just a costume.
Oh man, how does social media factor in here, as it seemingly always does?
Oh, I mean, of course it amplifies everything, and kids are scrolling through 24/7 all of these perfectly curated group pictures, and they feel like there's, they have to live up to this standard. And parents, I think, are feeling that too. Every parent wants to give their kid the Halloween of their dreams, but what if those dreams are unrealistic or unaffordable or age inappropriate? And social media, it kind of turns what used to be like a fun neighborhood night out into what feels like a competitive Instagram event.
Gosh, you're so right. Why is social media ruining this for everyone? Send your
Ruining
kids out with a
everything.
pillowcase. Okay, do this the way we did. Get a pillowcase and put a sheet over your head and draw some, cut some eye holes and head on out, kids. I mean,
You know what I
that was
was when I was
about how it
little?
was.
I was a
What?
house. I put a cardboard box on and I was a house.
That's awesome. I went one
Thanks.
day as a pajama girl and just wore pajamas. I mean, I
Well,
really
that's what I'm
took
going to
some
do
of
this
the
year.
stress. Yeah, do that. Do that. Dave, I feel like you're closer to this than we are because you have a younger kid. Are you noticing any of this?
Oh yeah, every year I see this, except, boys don't really play along. They don't wear any costume. So it's really just girls that I'm seeing. Is that right, Jordan?
Yeah, basically. My son is 14 and he hasn't dressed up for a couple of years. My daughter's 11 and it's amping up. Like it's just every year, like you said, it's more of a stressor, frankly.
My daughter is a sophomore in college and still dressing up with her friends, and I love that. Girls are so much more
dressing
fun and so much more spirit. Oh man!
So your son's not fun, is what you're saying?
No, boys listen. They're just I don't know. They don't play along as much.
Were you dressing up at how old's your son? 14.
My son is 17. No,
Were you dressing up at 17?
No, I don't.
No.
But Jordan's point, like they stop when they're like 13.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Anyway, Jordan, what are you dressing up as?
I am going to be the Joker in a group costume with my best friend. Like we're both dressing up as the Joker.
Keeping it real. That's great, Jordan,
Yeah.
because I mean, that's the group costumes are all the rage. Guys, I was just with a 13-year-old this past weekend visiting friends, and she was describing the stress of this because she went to two different schools. So she wants to go with her old friends from one school, her new friends with one school, but there's obviously a divide between which group costume they're going to be and which one she should go with. Group costumes, I mean, it's fun. It is fun because there's a feeling of you're all in it together, but it does complicate it, Jordan.
It does, and you know sometimes you might not think it's age appropriate, or you maybe I mean there's things can be very expensive, and I think you know it's more difficult with the group costumes, but with kids you can kind of stay curious about why they want to wear a certain thing. You know you don't say no, you say well what do you like about this? What does this make you feel like? And if you keep that line of communication open, you can you can approach the conversation in a way that doesn't make them feel shameful and doesn't make them feel silly, and it doesn't make them feel like they can't talk to you about the stuff that they're genuinely interested in.
That's good. Ask questions. That's great, Jordan. Thank you very much. Well, I'm sure we'll talk to you before Halloween, but have a great one.
Good to see you.
Are we going to be like a musical group? Maybe.
I will say this. It's a costume you might recognize if you watched the last Super Bowl.
The last Super Bowl.
But that doesn't mean it's a football player.
Right.
So let that sink in. Let it marinate.
Oh, I'm
it's
marinating.
A tease in the business. It's.
But Allison didn't watch the last Super Bowl. So.
Oh,
No, I
I
have no idea.
guarantee
I have
she
no
did.
idea what we're talking about. But I will say this, Jim. I'm pretty sure it will be embarrassing for you and me. If
I'm
Dave
sure
is
you're right.
spearheading this.
No, just fun. No,
Okay.
not embarrassing. This one's just fun.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But we might need a musical number. Popcorn.
It was
These
the
guys are
musical guest.
psyched.
It was. We're worried, is what we are.
You should be.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna let it just
Let
marinate.
it percolate.
Yeah.
All right. When we come right back, our intimacy expert has some tips for couples who are not always on the same page when it comes to sex. So don't go away.
Welcome back to Connecting America. It is just before 9 a.m. on the East Coast. Perfect time to talk about sex. So, as you guys may know, sometimes partners are not on the same page when it comes to intimate relations, and that can put a strain on even the strongest relationships. Mismatched libidos are apparently much more common than you'd think. So, we're joined now by intimacy expert Mackie Swan. She's CEO of Woo More Play. Mackie, great to have you here. So tell us about this. How common are mismatched libidos in couples?
It is incredibly common. Another phrase for this is desire discrepancy. And up to 80% of couples in long term relationships are going to experience this at some point.
So how do you know if this is a problem in your relationship? Seems like an obvious question, but do you wonder, is this a problem? Do you talk about it? What do you do?
So you would think it's obvious. And I think the biggest sign that this might be something that folks are experiencing in their relationship or in their marriage is if it feels like one partner is always the one initiating and is frequently feeling like they're getting rejected. Well, it's not about being in sync with your partner 24/7. Ideally, in your marriage, you're going to find a rhythm where both people are feeling desired, both people are feeling heard, and it's working well for you and your spouse and the relationship.
How much does stress and anxiety play in here?
It plays in a ton. I mean, if you think about all of the different things that can impact libido for just an individual person, things like mental health, medication, like you said, stress, anxiety, it could be job related, it could be from parenting, could be from picking out your kids' Halloween costumes. I think there's so many things that impact like an individual person's stress. So, of course, that's going to have an impact on their relationship as well.
And
Well,
so
I
what
think
do
the
you do then?
stereotype, yeah.
Sorry, Allison. What do you do then
Go ahead.
if you know the mismatch is about professional stress? Should you speak about it? What's the move?
So I think regardless of what the actual cause is of the stress and of the desire discrepancy, because of course it might be related to your lifestyle or your life events, but it also may just be that two people in a relationship have a different baseline for their libido. But regardless of what's causing it, I would say the first step, and this can be pretty hard to do, is to stop keeping score. So this idea that normal couples are intimate every day is completely made up. Intimacy does not look the same for everybody, and it also doesn't look the same in every relationship. So I think folks can remember that frequency should never be the goal. The goal should be connection. And then, of course, like you said, the next step is to talk about it, even if it feels really awkward. So don't have the conversation right before or right after intimacy. And definitely don't have it if you're feeling frustrated. I think that that can be a recipe for disaster. So, a good saying that most marriage counselors will say is clothed and calm. That's usually the best time to have challenging conversations around intimacy or around your relationship. And then one more tip that I always like to give, even though it does offer like strong reactions sometimes, is consider scheduling sex. I think for some reason people think that scheduled sex is going to mean that it isn't sexy, but in reality, it can really increase intimacy. It builds anticipation, it's really fun, and it's a good way of showing your partner or your spouse that they're a priority to you.
Gosh, that's fascinating, Mackie. I mean, in a marriage where there's children, is there anything other than scheduled sex? Is there another option?
I mean, there's plenty of other options. I feel like if you're going through these steps at home, if you feel like you're trying to talk to your spouse, if you feel like you've tried the scheduling sex thing and it isn't working for you, and you still feel like you're in a little bit of a funk, that's when I like to say, consider talking to a sex therapist or a relationship counselor. I think that's an investment in your marriage. That's an investment in your relationship. And if you remember that 80% of couples are going to experience mismatched libido at one time or another, that's like a really good reminder for folks. There's nothing broken. It doesn't mean your marriage is doomed. It doesn't mean your sex life is doomed. It just means that, hey, maybe it's time to pay a little bit more attention to it, talk about it more, bring in some outside resources. And it's very much a solvable problem.
What if one person is a night person and the other is a morning person? What do you do then?
That is a common issue. And I think that you can try different things on for size, right? If you feel like one person is more in the mood in the mornings, give that a try. If it's nighttime, go back and forth. Maybe if you can take a weekend getaway, kid free. I think that can help with the logistics of parents who are trying to be intimate and trying to connect with their partner, but that can, of course, be really challenging if you have little kids in the house.
I thought you'd say split the difference and go for a nooner. But,
There you go. Also,
hey, whatever works.
Also, Mackie, when you say, schedule the sex, I assume you need to sync your calendars, or does one person just put it on the calendar?
Don't put it on the calendar because you don't know if the kids see the calendar.
I'll leave the IT issues up to the
code word.
individual relationship.
Yeah, Mackie, you're great.
Laundry.
I can tell the guys have a ton of more questions for you, but we have to let you go.
We
Maggie's
do.
one, thank you very much. That was so great.
Great stuff.
Talk to you. Yeah.
Laundry.
All right.
That's good.
If you guys want to connect with us right now, you can download the best of Connecting America each day wherever you get your podcasts. You can just type in Connecting America into the search bar. Please follow us on social media. We are all over it: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and we'll see you tomorrow.